Okay.
I guess if there are any questions, you can start.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
So if you have any questions, you can start, and then I'll just kind of fire away.
Gosh, okay, I have so many questions.
Yeah, I had sent you a lot of them for Erin,
I
so.
know I'm looking up right now the text you sent me, Olivia. The first question, I can answer these first if you want.
Sure.
The pelvic floor pain in the tailbone, that's a deeper muscle. So when I showed you those muscles, it's the one that goes from the tailbone to the pubic bone. So it's deeper than. And then I think your other question kind of goes along with that initial penetration, but what about further? So again, that deeper muscle, because there's 3 layers. So at the deeper layer is probably where you're struggling.
3 layers?
There's 3 layers, yeah. Well, there's 2 pelvic floor muscle layers,
Okay.
and then there's a hip layer that's like really deep. That goes in further. So, but the initial part is usually like from scar tissue from deliveries, and also like if somebody's strained, to go to the bathroom. Sometimes I find that people have tightness in the front part.
Mm-hmm.
The back part by the tailbone is the deeper layer. So I can show you that again.
Yeah, that's where I have had from after my first pregnancy serious pain and like around my tailbone, and I thought my tailbone was broken. I couldn't sit down, like it was so painful, and I think those muscles were so tight. And then during my second delivery, I thought I wanted someone to stab me in my tailbone with a knife because I thought it would feel better. I needed some kind of release like in my tailbone, and it was so painful. And so that was 3 years ago. He just turned 3. And now I can sit down without being in pain.
That's
It took
good.
3 years to figure it out, and no one was helping me anyway, doctors and all of that. But but anyway, it still from time to time gets sore in those exact same spots, like around my tailbone. So I don't know how to release those muscles if I just like sit on a tennis ball and try to roll it out, or.
Yeah, I'll give you I'll show you what I do and how you can do that. And then so I have like 3 different ways I can show you for that. But diaphragm breathing is really key too. But muscles that are like held in a spasm by the nervous system, they don't release without maybe, a little bit more hands-on attention, because they just need the brain needs to know to let it go. And the brain needs that feedback coming from the muscles that are being held tight. Wait, hold on a second. Is that you, Julie? Okay, hi, you're early. But yeah, so I'll get my model out and I'll show you some things you can do for that. Do you have pain every time with penetration, or is it just
No.
Okay, so it's occasional.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And keeping your bowels healthy is really key too. So, making sure that you don't strain. So I don't know if you're having any issues with that.
I don't have any problems with that.
A lot of people don't think they're having an issue, but if they're also like holding their breath, or they're like gritting to go to the bathroom. So I tell people to open your mouth, like all your sphincters communicate. So like if your oral sphincter is held tight, then your esophageal sphincter is tight, and then the rectal sphincter is tight. So when you go to the bathroom, or even when you have sex, if you open your mouth, that helps.
Mm-hmm.
When you can go like that, and then like that'll open up all the sphincters. Because if you're clamping down, like childbirth, same thing. Like if you're going, and you're like clamping, then everything else is clamping down too. So those are some suggestions, but I'll get out the model and I'll show you kind of what to do for that. But I'm glad, it sounds like it's healing. It just needs a little bit more attention. So
Yes.
And then we talked about, I think last time, when the muscles are tight, they don't contract. So you have to go from here to here. So if your muscles are held tight, then they won't kegel properly, and then that gives you problems, with bladder issues and not being able to hold urine in, or also going to the bathroom too frequently. So those are all issues that we call pelvic floor dysfunction that are related to tightness, not weakness. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Wait, let me see. Oh, what was the question? I didn't understand this one that I got. What should we do at night if we feel like we have to go to the bathroom?
Okay, so because you were saying you shouldn't get up, you shouldn't get up and, sorry.
Urinate or a moment.
Oh, urination.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it depends. If you get to sleep, try that. If you've drank a lot, if you're drinking a lot of water before you go to bed or after dinner, you might have to go. Like there are times you have to get up in the morning. I don't always get up. In fact, I don't get up any time at night unless I'm trying to make up for what I didn't drink during the day. Like, or if I had a diuretic at the end of the day, like if you have decaf coffee, or sometimes wine will do that, you know, so it depends on what you're doing. But if you're getting up every night and it's clockwork, and it's on this, like, you look clock, it's like 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, you know, that your bladder's on a schedule. It's like an alarm clock. So you have to retrain your bladder and tell your bladder, because your bladder can fill, it can hold a lot. It's just that your bladder is thinking that it's time to go because that's when you usually get up. So it's kind of like a conditioned response. But yeah, if you can try to go back to sleep, you're not going to get a bladder infection. That's like a myth. Everybody thinks that they're afraid to get up, or they're afraid not to get up because like then they might end up with a UTI, but that's not true. So, you know, if you really had to go, and then if you get up and you go and you have a big stream, well, then you really had to go. So we talked about the 8-second stream, right? Last time. That's normal. Okay. Yeah. So if you have an 8-second void, you really had to go.
Right. So if you don't, then and you know that you're doing this because your pelvic floor is weak and whatever, you know, all of these issues are kind of playing in together. Like you have to heal first, or I'm just thinking of like, you know, to try to, you know, mind over matter it, and like I don't have to go to the bathroom. I feel like I do, but I really don't. You know what I mean?
How long have you been getting up and going to the bathroom at night?
How long?
Yeah.
3 years.
Okay, so it's been since the last one. So what I used to do is I would get up, and my conditioned response was as soon as my feet hit the ground, my bladder went, oh, she's up, and it started to contract, you know. So then I'd have a screaming child that I needed to go nurse or feed, and I'd go to the bathroom first. Well, eventually what I did was I told myself, and I was still learning as I went along here, especially with my first one, because I was just kind of new into women's health and pelvic floor health 19, 20 years ago. But I would go back to, or I would either, if the baby could get back to sleep, I'd have my husband get up. If it was like one of those things where they didn't really need to eat, and I was trying to get them through the night, because, you know, once the baby smells you, then you're done. You got to feed them, you know. So, but if I was the one to get up and it was time to feed, I would just go feed the baby and then go back to bed. So, there were times that the urge was so great. If you're standing up, it's worse. Like as soon as you sit down, then it's better. So then I would sit down and have that pressure against my pelvic floor, and then I wouldn't have to go, and then I'd go back to sleep. So I had to train myself because I had that urge. It was like feet hit the ground, and it's like the key in the door. We have a lot of patients who they've been driving, they've been out and about, they waited too long, and they get home, and as soon as they put that key in or they open that door knob, it's like the floodgates open up, and you have to go to the bathroom really bad. Like you can't hold it. You can also train yourself in the shower. So in the morning when I wake up, I drink coffee. I mean, I have to have coffee. I'm a zombie, so I drink coffee. I know it's a bladder irritant. I know I'm going to have to go to the bathroom a lot, but if I get an urge when I go in the shower with the running water, I just stand there and I wait for the urge to pass. I breathe, and then I don't have to go. But if I listen to the urge and respond to it, then I'm training my bladder to be in charge, not my brain to be in charge, you know? So I had to train myself to do that and to say, I don't have to go. And so now I don't even get an urge anymore. But, you know, for a while I did. Yeah. So
that's exactly what I was thinking.
Keep telling your bladder, keep telling your brain to tell your bladder it's in charge. So you're not going to have success with it every time, but it'll get better as you practice it.
So if you drink like, you know, a lot of water, or you drink coffee, just a lot of fluids, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be going to the bathroom more. Like you can train yourself to hold it, and then you'll just go more at each time if you have more fluid.
Yeah. So yeah, and you might have to urinate more often because there's more urine produced.
Okay.
So, but you just have to recognize that. Like we used to tell people, oh, don't have any of those. Like I worked with therapists who were so strict, and you know, to me, you're taking away the pleasure like of having something that you like. Now, if it's something that like the person is full out, they're in a diaper and they can't control it, we tell them just, maybe back off on that. But, if you're a person who drinks caffeine and you go off it cold turkey, you're going to get a headache too. So I just tell people, make sure you're aware that you might have to go to the bathroom more often during that time that you're drinking it. Now, and really, I've trained myself, caffeine doesn't affect me as much as decaf coffee. Decaf coffee makes me have to go to the bathroom because there's tannic acid in it. So you have to know your triggers, and like when I drink wine, I feel like I have to go more often, but that's sometimes good because I feel like maybe I've been retaining water during the day, and then it's time to go. So
So I was thinking last time, whenever you were talking about this, like with my kids or myself, before we go to church or we leave the house or before we go to bed, I'm like, go to the bathroom. I don't have to go. We'll try so we don't have to use the public bathroom or something. Yeah. But so is that kind of just training yourself or the kids negatively, like forcing
really
out?
It depends. I mean, if it's been 2 hours, go ahead and go. And I think it's a good idea to go before you go to bed. If you have to really go and you're going to bed in a half hour, then just go ahead and go, and then don't make another trip back to the bathroom before you go to bed. But here's the thing, some people, they're busy all day, they get in bed at night and all of a sudden all their muscles are relaxed, and then that tells, then they have to go to the bathroom. So I have a lot of women who do that, and that happens to me sometimes too. So, but if you're leaving the house and you're going to let's just say a baseball game, or there's going to be a porta potty, I mean, you're going to want to empty your bladder beforehand because you don't want to have to go into those nasty bathrooms. But sometimes you don't have a choice because you're there for like 4 hours, so, but yeah, you just don't want, if you've gone an hour, if it's been an hour, you don't have to go. Like if it's been 2 hours, go ahead and go, so that's kind of my general rule. So we call it JIC, just in case voiding, and we have like a no JIC policy, like don't go just in case. Like you're at the mall and you pass a bathroom, because then you start to condition yourself that every time you see a bathroom, you're going to want to stop.
Yeah.
And a lot of women will do that.
What about, you had mentioned like trying to like get the last drop out or drops out. Like I have been thinking about that a lot since you mentioned that, like, and I didn't realize how much I do that. So that's just not good.
I would breathe. Remember, your pelvic floor has to relax for your bladder to contract, okay? So if you're tightening here and then you're pushing it, you're just like forcing that out, and then you're making your pelvic floor dysfunctional and tighter. Like there's a time for it to relax and there's a time for it to contract. And so this idea that we have to force out the urine, that is, and same thing with, having a bowel movement, we shouldn't be doing either. It's a passive process. So what I would say to that is just sit there for an extra couple minutes if you have to. Pad the toilet seat, like make sure, and now there's all kinds, most bathrooms have a seat cover, but you could even take portable ones with you, like our moms, I know my mom told me don't sit on the seat and just hover over it. Well, that's really hard to get all the urine out when you're like squatting, like when you're half squatting. Now, if you're squatting in the floor all the way down, that's different, like in a hole like they do in Asian countries. But if you're half squatting, your legs are shaking. But again, there's no hard, fast rules. If you're at a concert, which, I haven't been to like a concert in a long time where there's like people peeing all over the seat, I'm not sitting on that thing, so, it's just, you have to look at where you're at. Most bathrooms now, like when we stop at a gas station when we're traveling, they're nice bathrooms. They're not those outdoor ones where you need a key anymore, But Erin, you live in Europe, so I can't, right?
Yes, so there's no public bathrooms. So
yeah, it's probably a bigger, it's a bigger challenge for you guys. Or you got to pay for it, right? Don't you have to like pay to go to the bathroom?
Yeah, I was actually in China and to adopt our son in March, and everyone was warning me, like, the bathrooms, they're just holes in the ground. And actually using them, I loved them. Yeah. I was like, this is awesome. You actually don't need toilet paper. Good, because they don't have any there anyway. But I'm like, feels way more natural. It's kind of weird, but like, I was like, this makes so much sense to just squat all the way down, instead of hovering over a toilet, like you said, and not touching it. In a public bathroom, way better. I was loving it.
So no toilet paper for bowel movement, or that's just
no, but you don't need it. It's so weird.
Sleep.
It is, and that's how like children and like my, you know, like kids, they would just like squat and poop, you know. But if they didn't have a diaper, this is what we learned in Europe too, because they have to go outside when we're out because there's no bathroom. So everyone pees and poops behind a tree, and then you just clean it up in a bag like a dog and then throw it away. So my 3-year-old squatting and pooping, like I was like, what are we gonna use for toilet paper? But you don't need a toilet paper if you squat and poop. Like, that's amazing.
Okay, so this is really funny and not really funny, but I will get my feet on my toilet seat and squat.
Yeah.
I do that, or, you know, I don't have a squatty potty. A lot of people recommend squatty potties.
A stool can work too.
A stool, squatty potty. But I was like, you know, I can do this on my toilet. I will, like, I tell my husband, you may not want to walk in on me because you might think I look funny.
And you know what? That's not that unusual. I had a patient, her husband was from China, and they were married like 2 years. And she said one day the crack of the door was open, and she saw him pooping, and her feet were on the toilet, and she was like, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "You don't go like this?" Like he was just dumbfounded.
Yeah, and it helps. So I understand what you're saying. So we have a hole. We just need to get on it.
And honestly, I think the kids know more. Like they put their feet on the stool naturally. And, you know, think about when you're potty training them. My kids had a harder time because I'm putting them on a toilet and they're telling me I need to squat. They go in the corner and squat and they poop, like in their pull-up. So I think they know. Toilets are not natural, and especially the higher the toilet. Like now the modern toilets are even higher, and you can't go to the bathroom so good with that. But yeah, so I would just say breathe, relax. Don't try to force either out, either pee or poop out. You just have to kind of like breathe, let it relax, and put your feet on the seat if you have to.
There you go.
Those are good questions.
I have a question. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just looking to see if I got everything, but go ahead.
Well, I don't know if Kylee, you had a C-section ever, but
yeah, too.
You did? Okay, yeah. So I have, I can't really feel much below my belly button, from my pubic bone to my belly button on the skin level. So even doing the breathing, like I can feel on the outside more by my hips that the TVA is engaged. But around my belly button, I mean, it's even like 2 inches. I don't really have a lot of feeling there. So Olivia was saying that Janine, could talk about like massaging the scar and trying to work through that. So I don't know if you could go over some things that would help with.
Okay. So what do you want me to go? Do you want me to go over that first, or do you want me to go over because you also had hip pain too, I wanted to address. So we have hip pain, we have the pain in the tailbone to address in that question. So
whatever.
Kylee, are these questions, are you okay if I answer these questions, or do you have anything? Okay. All right, so the first thing is your core, when it's working, is supposed to be stable and holding your skeleton, like your pelvis, together above it. So the thoracic area and the hips should be mobile. So when you have these tight hips, your hips are compensating for the weakness in your core. And it's hard for you to engage your core when there is lack of feeling. And that scar tissue, it takes several, like a millimeter a day that the nerve grows back, so it's hard. You may just feel numb in that area, and a lot of women will. So you want to give your brain more sensory information so that muscle can work better. So, initially after a C-section, we tell people to like put things against it, like a wool sock or just different textures to start feeling more. And so if you're feeling like it's hypersensitive, you could do that. But if it's not hypersensitive and it's just dead, then you do need to move the scar. So scars move in all directions. So like you should be able to pick up your skin and roll it. Okay, so do you see what I'm doing? Kind of like picking up and rolling my skin between my fingers. So that's what you should be able to do. And you probably have an indentation. And if you don't have an indentation, that's really good. So the research says that, like, if you have an indentation, you probably have more likelihood of having adhesions, meaning like underneath it, it's adhered to your bladder. Mm-hmm. So that's the other issue that women face, is that your bladder can't expand when there's scar tissue right over it. So that goes back to the bladder, thing. So it's sometimes a mechanical thing. It's like it's blocked. So for scar tissue stuff, you can take your skin, imagine I don't have a C-section scar, but I think we did this with let's just say my seam of my shirt. Okay, so you can kind of put 2 fingers on the seam, or on so I know yours isn't vertical, it's horizontal, but let's just give this as an example. So you would pull it in one direction for maybe 30 seconds and then pull it in the other direction. You might notice one direction's tighter than the other. Then go the other direction. So you're putting firm pressure and just dragging the skin, and then you're doing it the other direction. Okay, so basically the scar should move. If you put 2 fingers on it, it should move north, south, east, and west. Okay, so find the segment or the direction it's the tightest in, and then that's the direction you're going to want to hold and stretch it a little bit more. And you can do that a lot. Like if the incision's this long, you're going to want to do it in segments, here and then here and then here. Okay, so that's the first thing. Then you're going to want to mobilize your intestines to lift them off your bladder. So I'll show you what I do. Let me get on my table here. And I think recovering from a C-section is far harder than a vaginal birth. So from what I see, with my patients, they have more issues because there's scar tissue that everybody's like, oh, well, you didn't have a vaginal birth, so your pelvic floor is fine. Well, your pelvic floor is not fine because it's been pulled and stretched like someone took a thong pair of underwear and pulled it from the front. Well, it pulls all the way to the tailbone. So sometimes the tailbone issues are because of the scar, which would have been addressed if somebody told you to immobilize it initially. So hold on, let me get a few things I'll show you.
How long did you say to hold the 2 fingers, to pull in the?
20 to 30 seconds.
Okay.
Or until, if your arms get tired, then just do it for as long as you can. But again, you're just giving the brain little bits of information. All right, so what you'll do is you lie on your back. I use a yoga brick, but you could use a pillow. You're going to put it under your hips, like this, okay? So just this position alone feels kind of good. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to kind of want to scoop. You put your hands directly on your skin, but you're going to want to scoop your right around your belly button, maybe a little lower, and then pull it up towards your head. And when you do that, you're going to notice that it's pulling. It could pull into the groin. It could pull into that area where you're feeling it in the tailbone. So again, imagine you have something tight here. If you pull it like this, it's going to pull all the way back, So anything that's tight here is going to go all the way back. So you're going to pull it and then scoop and then pull up like that. Okay. And again, 20 seconds or as long as you can hold it. And then when you pull it up, you're going to notice it's tighter in one direction. So you pull it up and then move it a little bit to the left and then pull it up and move it to the right. So whichever direction pulls more or gives you a sensation that is tighter, that's the side you want to focus more on. So it's like you're engaging the tissue and you're keeping it engaged as you pull. Does that make sense? So that's what I use for prolapse too. So I have an organ prolapse, so at times I feel like my bladder is just sitting on top of my pelvic floor. So it feels like I have a tampon in. I do that to kind of relieve that pressure. But the other thing I do, which goes along with the tailbone pain, is I release my obturator internus muscle. So let me get my pelvic model. And then I'm going to show you this too. This is an example of a muscle that's in a knot. If you take that and pull it, it's going to make the knot tighter. So sometimes we can't stretch our way out of those muscle knots with just the traditional stretches that you normally would do, like hamstring stretching, that kind of thing. But if you put your finger on that knot and you work on that trigger point, then that knot improves, and then you can pull it apart. So a lot of these muscles that have these trigger points in them, if you can you can work out those trigger point knots, then you can stretch better and that tissue moves, okay? So let me go back to the pelvic model. So here's the front. So this is that first layer we were talking about. Here's the urethra, vagina, rectum. Move that. Now you've got just the rectal part. There's the tailbone, okay, right there. This muscle here is the hip. It's called obturator internus, okay? So from the inside view, it's this red muscle right here, okay? So it's much deeper. I can press on this muscle and I can cause bladder pain. I can cause pain down the leg. I can cause rectal pain in my patients and tailbone pain. So your tailbone pain that's remaining might be because you have trigger points or knots in that muscle, you know, like this rope. So you got a knot in it and you can't just stretch that. You have to get that pressure on the muscle and then get it to release. So this is what you can do. So if you lay on your side, I'm going to show you here. You're on your sit bone, like the sit bone is like, you'll be able to feel it. You want to go up and over that into that right there, okay, which is the same thing as this red muscle right here.
Mm-hmm.
Right there. Okay, so it's the same muscle. It's just that you can reach it from the outside too. So when you lay on your side, I'll show you how to do this. You can use, we'll go back to this dilator, okay? So, and where to get these, I wouldn't get it from like vaginismus.com. I get this from Syracuse Medical, but I don't know if they sell directly to patients. But you're going to want the smallest size. So you could Google dilators, vaginal dilators, and get the smallest. This is a teeny, like it's the diameter of my finger. It's really small. Okay, you want something small, not something big, okay? But anything with like a brush, that would work too. All right, so what you do is you go on your side, and you put one leg kind of on top so that your hips are, you know, you don't want your legs to drop like that. This will be more comfortable. And then you're going to angle it, and I'm going to have to do my other side so you can see this better, but what I'm doing is I'm angling, here's you on your side, I'm angling this down into that muscle right there, okay? So I'm not in the middle, I'm going down kind of at like a 45-degree angle down, okay? You can use your hand there too. So if I was to do this with my hand, I got to kind of like go backwards with my arm, and it's a little bit awkward. I'm discombobulated. Which direction? How would you guys do this? Maybe if I go like this. And then you put your hand, you got to find the sit bone where you sit on. Can you see my hand?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Too far away for me to tell if it's visible, but you kind of put your hand in there and you release that. And again, you can use your hand or you can use that dilator. I often get help from my husband because I can't reach it so good in my arms. I use my arms so much during the day that if I do too much of that, then I'm going to get a cramp in my arms, and my forearms are already like really crampy because I work them all day. So you can do it yourself, use a tool, or get help. And you'll know you're on it because it'll hurt. It'll feel like a deep, nagging toothache. It'll feel, and it could radiate, like it might radiate over to the tailbone. But you have to kind of go up and over it. The bone is a circle, so you have to go up and over it to be in the middle of the circle, not on the bone. So you kind of want to be in the middle. Like, you want to be on this part, which means you have to get in like that. So can you see I'm kind of like, well, here, I'll move this out of the way. Like you want to be inside of that on your side. But the muscle's in the way, so you can only go so far from the outside. Now, if you decide to do it from the inside, you can do that too. So here is the dilator going in vaginally, and it just goes over to the side. You want to be on that muscle right there, okay? Or Have hubby help and press on it like that. And when inside, I have to hook it like that. So when I'm manipulating that muscle or pressing on it, I have to be like this. So when I'm doing the right side, I do that. If I'm doing the left side, I got to go this way. So I'm like this, and then I'm like that. Okay? But the outside might be, you know, enough for you to work on. Like I feel when I'm feeling that drag or that heaviness, if I release that muscle, those muscles are like anchors. Imagine a huge that's filling up. If it has anchors on it, it won't go up, like it won't elevate. Okay, so you want those anchors to be freed up. Otherwise, they're going to hurt when you sit. I mean, those are your sit bones. Right here is where you sit. That muscle's right there. So if you have pain with sitting, a lot of times it is that. That's the sit bone muscle. So it's called obturator internus. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are you guys there? I lost my hearing.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's good.
I didn't know if it was my computer.
I think they're taking notes.
Yeah, we're writing.
All right. Well, I'm glad this is recording, right? Yeah. So they're
Yes.
Yeah. So it takes practice to find it. It is a big circle, you know, like this bone. This bone is a circle that's like that. Okay. So, you know, if you take your hand like that and if you press here and you don't feel anything, it might not be that the muscle's okay. You might have to kind of press around within that circle to find it. So what I've used the term is like I'm scanning the muscle to see if there's a trigger point in it, you know, so you kind of want to palpate around it. You don't want to just assume that. Sometimes I've made the mistake, I've pressed on someone's muscle and they're like, oh, that doesn't hurt. But then I go around it and then they go, oh yeah, that part hurts. So it may not hurt towards the back part, but it might hurt towards the front. So you just kind of have to feel around. But that's usually that deeper pain. That's that third layer I'm talking about, okay? Here's the first layer right here. Here's the second layer, and then there's the third layer. You know, so the third layer would be here's the second layer, and then the third layer is there. It's that muscle right there, obturator internus. Okay.
So is that how you would help work on her tailbone, you think?
Yeah, that, and you know, if I was seeing you in the clinic, I would look at your pelvic alignment, like your sacral alignment back here. But that goes back to that hip thing, laying on your back. I showed you that last time, right? Like where you lay on your back and check to see if your hips are opening. Did we do that last time? I think
Yes.
Yes. Are your hips even, or do you have one hip tighter than the other?
One's tighter than the other.
Okay. So the one that's tighter, that's the side that you need to spend more side plank time on, you know, 10 seconds at a time. And again, it's not strengthening, it's telling the brain, hey, this is what I want you to do. I want you to work your core. So it's giving feedback to your brain to tell that lower transverse abdominis to do its job because it forgot how to work because it was cut. Mm-hmm. And if that muscle is doing its job, then you don't have the piriformis. The piriformis is a muscle that goes across the back side, like on either side from the sacrum over to the hip. So when you say you have tight hips, you probably have tightness deep. Oh, she lost herself again. She always falls down. It's not very secure. But the muscle goes across your hip like where my finger is, like from here to here. So for that, I think, Kylee, we did this where we put a ball up against the wall, you know, like a little tennis ball. Did we do that? I think we did that early on.
That might have been Amanda.
Amanda, okay. So let me grab the little ball. I'll show you. So I use something called a pinky ball, but you can use like a small dog ball or a tennis ball. And what you do is you place it in the center of your buttock. You go up against a wall, and you kind of go sideways and then up and down, and you'll find it. I mean, especially like right next to that triangular bone, you know, like on the sacrum right there, you're going to notice that it's very tender and very sharp, and then you just hold that pressure. Typically, there's two spots. It's here and here. You have to release. And if you're having pain laying on your side, it's usually that spot right there. You kind of have to like, I mean, mine hurts almost every day, even though I get dry needled and I do all this stuff for my hips, but my hips tend to be tight just because, you know, I've had 3 babies and 5 pregnancies, and you know, my core is, I'm so busy helping everybody else, my core is not as strong as it is.
So when I have pain, like, I don't know if it's the piriformis, but it's like vertical, like right down the center of, like, I don't know, butt cheek, I guess you say, but just like it goes vertical, like not across. So is that the piriformis?
It could be. It could be. Yeah, unless you have a trigger point, like the surface muscle is the glute maximus. That's the muscle that, you know, we're trying to retrain because it's weak on everybody. We have this dead butt problem, you know, after having babies. But the piriformis and the gluteus medius both go across. So anywhere where it hurts is basically where you need attention to it. And if you do it every day, you'll notice that, like, after a week, it won't hurt at all anymore.
So I have a pain that's on the absolute side of my hips. Yeah. So it's like the meaty part where there's no bone. And, you know, when you're in labor and you push on it, it feels better. Yeah. It's like, kind of opens your hips a little bit. That spot, I still have a ton of pain. And the deeper I push, the more pain I have in there. Do you have anything for, is it same with a tennis ball?
Yeah, tennis ball. I mean, you could even use the dilator and, you know, palpate on that. I just gave you the example of the tennis ball because you can put your weight into it, and it's not as difficult on the rest of your body. It's more passive. Some people teach this laying down on your back. I find it kind of awkward to kind of roll around and you know, find a spot. It's easier for me to lean into the wall and do it. But yeah, anywhere where you have that tenderness, where you feel like if you press into it. But part of that is like when you feel like you give yourself support, that's what your core should be doing, and eventually your core is going to feel really good. Like the example, I use a lot of Diane Lee stuff, so I know Olivia, we've talked about this. Like she does something called an active straight leg raise test, where you lie on your back, and you lift one leg up, and then the other leg up, and then if one leg feels heavier, if you stabilize, if you push and compress yourself together, it's so much easier. I think that's kind of what you're explaining or talking about. If it feels good when you hold yourself together, that means that the transverse abdominis is not working automatically. You put your hands this way and kind of go on your back. That's the multifidus that's weak. So either way, your legs should feel even. They should not feel like one's tighter than the other. Or heavier than the other. And as you get stronger, you're going to notice that inherent control comes back. It's just that was lost. So when that's lost, you're using the wrong muscles to hold yourself together, and that's why your hips are tight. But that obturator internus on the hip side that is tight, Erin, is probably the side you want to start on. Okay, so like for me, when I lay on my back and I open up my left leg, it won't drop as good as my right leg, and I do have a trigger point on my left obturator internus. So I'm always working on that one, but I'm also surprised to find my other side does hurt. It's not like it's completely healthy, but the left one's always worse. And that muscle, when it's tight, will hold up your hip too. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's the inside that's tight, not the outside, but you probably have both, would be my guess. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it's just I call them cheater muscles or second string team muscles. You know, you're a coach, you want your best players on the team, you want your core and your glutes in the game. And for many of us, they're not in the game. And then so we have to use something to hold ourselves together. So these other muscles are in the game too long, and then they get tired and fatigued and they get into knots and they cause all kinds of dysfunction. So that's kind of like my best explanation for it. It's just what we do to hold ourselves together. Because we have to operate, we have to function. So let me show you my other way for the obturator. So you mentioned sitting on a ball, Erin. I sit on a pool noodle.
Okay.
Yeah. So you straddle the pool noodle. You can put it on a big physio ball, or you can put the pool noodle just on a chair and just kind of like rock back and forth. I've also had people say to use like a chapstick or a lipstick canister and do it that way too. So Or you can try a ball. I suppose sitting on a ball, you know, kind of move around. I mean, I feel that. So
Yeah.
but the pool noodle's kind of nice. It's firm, but it's a bigger like surface area, so it's not like digging into it as much as like a small ball or your finger. So, and then you can also use your fingers. Like you can literally put your finger like this and sit on it, and that can get it too. And then you just hold until it stops aching, usually about a minute. You know, if you have to hold longer than a minute, then that muscle's really, really angry. But, you know, typically a minute is good. And it'll release quicker and easier as you do it consecutively, like each day. But it shouldn't hurt. I mean, when you press on your thumb, does that hurt? Well, mine's really thick, so it does. And that's the migraine spot right there. You know?
Ow!
I know, it hurts.
My left one hurt, yeah.
I'll say mine
But
hurts.
if you just press gently and you don't squeeze it, it's soft. That's what your muscles are supposed to feel like. They're not supposed to be like a clay hard rock, and that's where most of us are, so that are having pain and dysfunction. So does that make sense? Okay. I think that answered everything, right? We talked
I
about
think so.
deep pain, tailbone pain, tight hips, bladder. Covered a lot.
Yeah. That was a lot.
Yeah. But you're healing, you know, it's not like you're going to be great and perfect the next day. This is a process. It's a journey, you know, and I'm still on the journey, even though my youngest is 12. And the journey that I'm on is I'm good most days, but if I strain to go to the bathroom, then I feel like I'm back. I step back a few steps, you know, and then I got to like do all my self-management stuff. So having these skills, these tools in your belt, like this is going to be what you can use for the rest of your life, you know. But, you know, it depends on how much you're doing, how active you are, how much you're on your feet. You know, I have poor self-care most days because I work 5 days a week, and then I go home and I have to do laundry, and I got to take care of my kids. All three of them are at camp this week, and I'm like loving this because I haven't had to do laundry, extra laundry, glasses, and stuff they leave around. I'm just like, I don't know if I want them coming home. It's enough to work and then go home and have to take care of their mess, you know. So I just think I need to train my children better.
Yeah.
Don't we all?
So if you guys have any suggestions for me, I would love those because I can't get it. I feel like I'm nagging them constantly.
Do you have a good idea for like a psoas release? Like I know, Olivia, you have the psoas stretch that I really liked, but I kind of feel like I need something like to push somewhere on it, or maybe that's too hard, but I don't know if you have it.
What supplies the psoas is this muscle back, or the nerve that comes right back here. So anything you can do back behind you, you could take the ball back there, release it. You could take your hand and kind of pull it. That's what I do. Like when I have a patient who has a tight psoas, I usually pull there and put my hand here and I release it there. But if it's tight back here, you can stretch your psoas till the cows come home and it's not going to help. You know, you have to get the source of it, which is the nerve on the back side, where the nerve comes out back. Yeah. So like the flank area, you know. And what I often will do on people is I'll just tell them to put tape right there, up and down, like a strip of tape, like a double 2 pieces so that it's a little bit wider, and then it kind of helps with that tension where the nerve comes out for the psoas.
Okay.
That was a good question. You guys had really good questions today.
Yeah.
Lots of questions. So, but if you have any more questions, you can shoot them to Olivia, and then I'll do my best to answer them in between. So,
Yeah, she was enjoying her hubby this week.
trying, yeah.
Yeah. Anniversary, right?
Nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had our 24th anniversary. He's, I feel bad. He's so neglected because I'm a business owner, I'm a mother, and he's such my backbone. Like I couldn't do this business without him. I mean, most times I work late, the dinner's on the table. I mean, it's so nice. So I feel like I don't appreciate him enough. So sometimes we have to stop what we're doing and just give them attention. So
Yeah.
that's what we did. So
Good.
Janine, which city do you live in?
I live in Hudson, Ohio, which is south of Cleveland.
Ah, okay. When I move back to the U.S., I might move to Hudson, Ohio, just to come see you.
Well, it's a really cute, quaint New England town, so a lot of people come here just to travel and shop and good restaurants, and then, you know, stay at a bed and breakfast, and, you know, gonna have to live here. But my kids always say, Mom, this is the greatest town. I wish we could just pick it up and move it to a warmer climate, because it gets pretty cold in the winter.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's a good place to go vacation.
Well, yeah, I mean, most people don't think of Cleveland as a good place to vacation just because of the weather, but we do have nice summers. We really do.
Yeah.
Except today, it's kind of icky and rainy, and storms coming. It's going to be 92 and humid this weekend. Ugh, but.
Well, thank you so much, Janine, as always.
All right. You guys have a good day.
You too.
Thank
All right.
you.
Bye, y'all.
Okay, bye.